Welcome to a space where your thoughts become your reality, where every morning is a chance to reset your mind, transform your energy, and step into the version of yourself you were always meant to become. Here, we explore powerful ideas about mindset, self growth, manifestation, and the hidden power within your thoughts. If you are ready to create a calmer mind, a stronger belief system, and a more intentional life, you are in the right place. Your mornings contain far more creative power than most people realize. In the brief moments after waking, before messages, responsibilities, and old habits reclaim your attention, your mind is unusually open and receptive. Rather than simply carrying yesterday into today, you are standing at the beginning of a completely new experience. Every sunrise offers an invitation to consciously choose the version of yourself you want to embody. You decide whether you will meet the day with confidence or hesitation, gratitude or frustration, peace or anxiety. Although external circumstances may seem to determine your future, your internal state quietly shapes how you interpret every event, recognize every opportunity, and respond to every challenge. A calm and focused mind notices possibilities that a stressed mind overlooks. When you begin the day believing that life is unfolding in your favor, your perspective naturally shifts toward hope, purpose, and meaningful action. The emotional tone established in these first moments often echoes throughout the entire day, influencing conversations, decisions, relationships, and the opportunities you attract. The thoughts you repeatedly entertain each morning are much more than passing mental activity. They become the foundation upon which your daily experience is built. Every thought plants a seed within your subconscious mind, and those seeds gradually grow into emotions. Those emotions influence your choices, your habits, your reactions, and eventually the results that define your life. This is why imagination is such a powerful creative force. Every vivid mental picture you return to, every feeling you intentionally cultivate, and every identity you consistently accept becomes part of the blueprint your mind follows. Before your feet even touch the floor, taking a single deep breath and asking yourself, who am I choosing to be today, can transform the direction of your entire day. The answer is not merely motivational, it becomes an instruction that shapes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you solve problems, and how you interpret the experiences that follow. Instead of reacting to life by default, you begin creating your reality with deliberate intention. Choosing peace, trust, and inner alignment each morning also changes the way you interact with uncertainty. Rather than waking with pressure, urgency, or fear, you first reconnect with a quiet sense of stability within yourself. In that stillness, mental noise begins to fade and clarity naturally emerges. You no longer feel compelled to force every outcome or control every situation because you develop confidence that life is unfolding according to a larger pattern, even when immediate evidence is absent. This quiet certainty is not blind optimism. It is an inner conviction that remains steady regardless of temporary circumstances. Challenges may still appear, but they lose much of their emotional power because you stop reacting from panic and begin responding with wisdom. Your intuition becomes easier to hear, gently guiding your decisions without confusion or fear. As this inner foundation strengthens, your words become more thoughtful, your actions more intentional, your relationships more balanced, and your daily experiences begin reflecting the stability you have cultivated within yourself. The deeper principle behind this process is remarkably simple yet profoundly transformative. Every external experience begins with an internal pattern. Your awareness shapes your beliefs generate emotional habits, your emotions influence your actions, and your repeated actions create the life you eventually experience. By changing the starting point of that sequence, you gradually change everything that follows. Instead of blaming circumstances for how you feel, you begin taking responsibility for the meaning you assign to every experience. Even uncertainty starts looking like an opportunity for growth instead of a threat. Each morning becomes a blank canvas waiting for your first deliberate brushstrokes. If you begin with fear and worry, those emotions often color the rest of the day. But when you consciously choose confidence, gratitude, clarity, and inner peace, those qualities naturally spread into every interaction and decision you make. Through consistent practice, life stops feeling random or chaotic. You become an active participant in shaping your experience, discovering that the quality of your thoughts, emotions, and conscious choices influences not only how you feel, but also the reality you steadily create around yourself. With consistent practice, life gradually stops feeling random or controlled by outside circumstances. Instead of reacting to whatever happens around you, you begin taking an active role in shaping your daily experience through the quality of your thoughts, emotions, and conscious decisions. Modern neuroscience provides an interesting perspective on why the morning is such a powerful time for this process. Shortly after waking, the brain naturally spends time in slower alpha and theta brainwave states, conditions associated with relaxation, creativity, and increased receptivity. During this period, communication between the conscious and subconscious mind becomes more fluid, allowing new ideas, beliefs, and emotional patterns to be absorbed more easily. Rather than fading away, the thoughts and emotions you repeatedly experience during these early moments become part of the mental framework that influences your perception, reactions, and behavior throughout the rest of the day. In many ways, the first few minutes after waking act like the opening chapter of your day, quietly establishing the emotional and psychological direction that everything else tends to follow. Your brain is constantly filtering reality through the beliefs you already hold. Every second, it receives far more information than it could ever consciously process, so it automatically selects what appears most relevant based on your existing expectations and emotional state. If you begin the morning feeling anxious, discouraged, or overwhelmed, your mind naturally notices situations that seem to confirm those feelings, reinforcing the belief that life is difficult or unpredictable. On the other hand, when you start the day with confidence, gratitude, or calm expectation, your attention shifts toward opportunities, supportive interactions, and solutions that may have gone unnoticed before. The external world may remain exactly the same, but your experience of it changes because the filter through which you interpret reality has changed. This creates a powerful feedback loop. Your beliefs shape your perception strengthens those beliefs, and the cycle continues day after day until you consciously choose to interrupt it with new patterns of thought and feeling. Emotions play an equally important role in shaping your reality because they influence nearly every aspect of your daily life. The way you communicate with others, the confidence behind your decisions, your willingness to take healthy risks, and even the opportunities you recognize are all affected by your emotional state. When you deliberately cultivate feelings of peace, confidence, gratitude, and inner security each morning, you are not pretending that problems do not exist. Instead, you are creating an internal environment that allows you to respond with greater clarity, patience, and wisdom. Research in psychology has long suggested that much of human behavior operates automatically through subconscious habits formed over years of repetition. These deeply rooted patterns quietly guide emotional reactions, routines, and decision making without requiring conscious effort. As a result, many people repeatedly experience the same frustrations because they continue operating from the same subconscious identity. Temporary motivation may inspire change for a short time, but unless the underlying emotional patterns evolve, the mind naturally returns to what feels familiar. True and lasting transformation begins beneath conscious thought, at the level of identity and emotional conditioning. You can set ambitious goals, repeat affirmations, or make promises to yourself every morning. But if deep inside you still identify with fear, scarcity, insecurity, or self doubt, those hidden beliefs eventually pull your behavior back toward familiar habits. It is much like trying to swim against a powerful current. Determination may carry you forward for a while, but unless the current itself changes, it continually draws you back. The subconscious functions in much the same way, constantly seeking consistency with the identity it already accepts as true. This is why the first moments after waking are so valuable. Before old routines and emotional habits fully activate, you have a unique opportunity to introduce a new inner state. By consistently choosing thoughts and emotions that align with the person you want to become, you gradually rewrite the subconscious patterns that shape your daily experience. Over time, your actions begin to flow naturally from this new identity rather than requiring constant discipline, and personal growth becomes less about forcing change and more about expressing the person you have consciously become. Every new morning places you in the role of creator rather than passive observer, From the instant you open your eyes, the emotional state you choose begins influencing every conversation, decision, challenge, and opportunity that follows. It is rarely the events themselves that determine the quality of your life. Instead, it is the identity you carry into those events that shapes how you interpret and respond to them. A stressful mindset can make ordinary situations feel exhausting, while a calm and confident mindset transforms those same circumstances into manageable opportunities for growth. Two people can experience identical situations yet walk away with completely different outcomes because each approaches life from a different level of awareness. Once you understand this principle, you stop waiting for perfect conditions before allowing yourself to feel peaceful or fulfilled. Instead, you consciously generate the emotional atmosphere you wish to experience first, trusting that your external life will gradually begin reflecting the changes taking place within. Awareness becomes the starting point of transformation, and the beliefs you consistently reinforce each morning become the invisible cause from which your daily experiences naturally emerge. You do not have to control every conversation, predict every obstacle, or manage every unexpected event to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. Much of the stress people carry comes from believing they must constantly manage circumstances beyond their influence. In reality, the greatest form of control comes from mastering the way you respond. What matters most is protecting the inner state you choose to embody. When you remain calm, wise decisions arise naturally instead of being forced through anxiety. When confidence becomes your default state, action feels smoother and more decisive because you are no longer second guessing every step. A centered mind is far less vulnerable to distractions, emotional impulses, and unnecessary drama. Everything that eventually appears in your external experience begins as an internal condition. This is why your morning should become more than another routine on your schedule. It should become a deliberate ritual where you prepare your mind, emotions, and intentions before the demands of the world begin competing for your attention. Just a few minutes of conscious preparation can alter the emotional direction of your entire day and gradually transform the quality of your life. Among all the remarkable abilities you possess, imagination is perhaps the most powerful because it allows you to experience possibilities before they physically exist. Neville Goddard often described imagination not as entertainment or fantasy, but as the creative force through which reality begins taking shape. Whatever you repeatedly imagine with conviction gradually becomes believable, and what becomes believable eventually influences the way you think, feel, behave, and live. Instead of waiting for external success to give you confidence, you first create that confidence internally. Rather than hoping future achievements will make you feel fulfilled, you consciously generate feelings of gratitude, peace, accomplishment, and certainty in advance. These emotions subtly influence your posture, your voice, your conversations, and the quality of every decision you make. If your first mental picture each morning is filled with limitation and fear, your attention naturally notices evidence that supports those expectations. But when you intentionally imagine yourself capable, resilient, and deeply grateful, your awareness begins recognizing opportunities, strengths, and blessings that were always present but previously hidden by negative expectations. Although your surroundings may not change overnight, your relationship with them changes immediately. And over time, that new perspective produces entirely different outcomes. The emotional energy you carry into each day quietly shapes nearly every experience you have. Long before you speak a word, your beliefs, emotions, and self-perception influence how you communicate, how others respond to you, and how you interpret the situations unfolding around you. Two people can enter the same environment under identical circumstances and leave with completely different experiences because each brings a different emotional state. Someone consumed by anxiety naturally scans the world for danger, criticism, disappointment, and reasons to worry. That emotional filter often leads to rushed reactions, unnecessary misunderstandings, and outcomes that reinforce existing fears. By contrast, someone who maintains inner calm approaches life with patience, emotional balance, and mental clarity. Their thinking becomes more creative, their decisions become wiser, and opportunities that once seemed invisible suddenly become obvious. The world itself has not changed, only their awareness has. Life continually reflects the state you consistently embody, making each morning an ideal opportunity to consciously regulate your emotions, clarify your intentions, and reconnect with a peaceful sense of purpose before external pressures begin shaping your mood. Inner transformation always comes first, and the outer world gradually mirrors that change through your choices, behaviors, and experiences. Stillness is often the missing element in personal transformation because genuine clarity rarely emerges from constant mental activity. Many people spend their days trapped in endless loops of analysis, worry, planning, and trying to predict every possible outcome, believing that more thinking will eventually produce better answers. Yet excessive thinking often drowns out the quiet wisdom already present within. Real insight exists beneath the noise, not inside it. When you intentionally create moments of silence, your awareness begins to settle, and the constant stream of thoughts gradually loses its intensity. In that spaciousness, intuition becomes easier to recognize. It rarely announces itself dramatically or demands attention. Instead, it appears as a calm sense of knowing that feels simple, peaceful, and quietly certain. Developing this connection does not require complicated techniques. Spending only a few minutes each morning sitting in silence, allowing thoughts to arise and pass without judgment or resistance, gradually trains the mind to become less reactive and more present. At first, the quiet may feel unfamiliar because the modern world conditions us to seek constant stimulation. But with regular practice, those brief moments of stillness become a source of remarkable peace. They reconnect you with the deepest part of yourself, the part untouched by fear, old conditioning, or automatic emotional habits. And from that place, clearer decisions, greater emotional resilience, and a stronger sense of purpose begin to arise naturally. When your day begins from a place of inner stillness, the quality of everything that follows begins to change. Instead of reacting impulsively to every inconvenience or emotional trigger, you develop the ability to pause, observe, and respond with intention. Situations that once felt overwhelming gradually lose their power because your peace is no longer dependent on external conditions. Pressure still exists, but it no longer controls you. Each conversation becomes more thoughtful, each decision more deliberate, and every action more closely aligned with the person you are consciously choosing to become. This quiet inner stability creates a foundation that supports every area of life, allowing you to move through the day with greater clarity, patience, and confidence rather than being pulled in different directions by circumstances beyond your control. Many people believe achievement requires constant struggle, endless effort, and relentless control. They assume that if they simply push harder, work longer, and force every situation to unfold according to their plans, success will eventually follow. Yet this approach often leaves them exhausted because it is driven by an underlying belief that something essential is missing. A different approach begins when you shift from constantly chasing to consciously receiving. Receiving does not mean becoming passive or avoiding responsibility. It means taking meaningful action from a place of confidence instead of desperation, and allowing your efforts to be guided by trust rather than fear. When your inner state changes from scarcity to abundance, your thinking becomes clearer, your energy feels lighter, and opportunities seem to appear with greater frequency. In reality, those opportunities may have always existed, but you are finally open enough to recognize them. By releasing resistance and meeting each day with curiosity, flexibility, and quiet confidence, life begins to feel less like an endless battle and more like a partnership in which your actions flow naturally with the opportunities before you. The first moments of every morning offer the ideal opportunity to establish this mindset before the outside world begins shaping your attention. The words you repeatedly speak to yourself become instructions for your subconscious mind, especially when they are supported by genuine emotion rather than empty repetition. Affirmations are not magical phrases. They are reminders of the identity you are intentionally building. Speaking statements such as, "Today I move through life with calm confidence. My mind is clear and focused. I welcome new opportunities with gratitude," or "Everything I need is unfolding at the right time," becomes meaningful only when you pause long enough to truly experience those feelings. As your thoughts, emotions, and imagination begin working together, your identity slowly changes. You no longer act confident because you are trying to convince yourself. Instead, confidence becomes part of who you are. Your decisions improve, your habits require less effort, and many of the outcomes you once struggled to achieve begin emerging more naturally because your behavior is finally aligned with your inner beliefs. Real transformation is rarely the result of one extraordinary morning. It is the product of countless ordinary mornings in which you repeatedly choose peace over fear, clarity over confusion, and confidence over self-doubt. Every time you return to your chosen emotional state, even when circumstances tempt you to react differently, you strengthen new patterns within your mind. Many people abandon personal growth because they expect immediate external results, but lasting change has always depended on patient repetition rather than temporary motivation. Some mornings will feel inspiring, while others may feel difficult or emotionally heavy. Those challenging mornings are often the most valuable because choosing your desired state despite uncomfortable emotions builds genuine resilience. Over time, confidence no longer requires conscious effort. Peace becomes familiar instead of unusual. The beliefs you once repeated as affirmations become automatic ways of thinking, and the habits that once required discipline begin flowing naturally. Eventually, you are no longer trying to become a different person, you have become one. Success is no longer something you chase through constant struggle. It becomes the natural expression of the identity you have patiently cultivated. Lasting change is built on this simple truth. Your identity forms the foundation of every thought, every decision, every habit, and ultimately every result you experience in life. Identity is the foundation upon which every lasting transformation is built. While goals provide direction and habits create momentum, identity determines whether those goals and habits become a permanent part of your life or remain temporary efforts. Many people try to change by focusing only on what they want to achieve, but true change begins by asking a far more important question: who am I becoming? Every decision you make either strengthens your current identity or reinforces a new one. When you consistently think, speak, and act as the person you aspire to become, your subconscious gradually accepts that identity as familiar and true. Eventually, your behaviors stop feeling forced because they naturally flow from the person you believe yourself to be. You no longer practice confidence, you become confident. You no longer struggle to remain peaceful, you become someone for whom peace is a natural way of living. This shift in identity influences every area of your life. Your relationships begin changing because you communicate differently. Your work improves because you approach challenges with greater confidence and patience. Your health benefits because your daily choices become aligned with the respect you have for yourself. Even your response to setbacks transforms. Instead of seeing obstacles as proof that you are failing, you recognize them as opportunities to reinforce the person you have decided to become. Temporary disappointments no longer define your future because your identity is no longer dependent upon immediate results. You understand that every experience, whether pleasant or difficult, offers another opportunity to strengthen the qualities you value most. As this perspective grows, resilience replaces frustration, and consistency replaces emotional extremes. One of the greatest misunderstandings about personal growth is the belief that confidence, happiness, or success will eventually create a stronger identity. In reality, the opposite is often true. Your identity shapes your actions first, and those actions gradually produce the results you seek. If you continue identifying as someone who is unlucky, unworthy, or incapable, your subconscious will quietly encourage choices that reinforce those beliefs. But when you begin identifying as someone who is calm, capable, disciplined, and deserving of meaningful opportunities, your mind naturally searches for behaviors that support that self-image. This is why lasting transformation is never simply about changing what you do. It is about changing the story you consistently tell yourself about who you are. Once that inner story changes, your external behavior follows with far less resistance than before.